Hey guys, it's Icy World here. I wanted to make a video on skeleton structures within a sim file. I have some prepared content here. My Scars of Yesterday file from ICX, which I have a complete video on YouTube as well. I'll link in the description of the stepping process for the entirety of it. I wanted to show off skeleton structures in sim files because I think it's a really useful way of keeping track of what you want to do within a sim file, and I want to explain my thought process behind it whenever I create a skeleton structure. I'm going to do it for this song, and I'm also going to do it for a song called Rampage from Nuclear Blast 5. I'm going to show you exactly how I determine to make a skeleton structure and what I do with it afterwards. So here is the map Scars of Yesterday by Dragon Force, and let's take a look at roughly 20-30 seconds. I'm just going to let it play out, and I'm going to show you the skeleton structure afterwards. Alright, let's go back to the start of this section, and this is just to give a really basic idea of how to create a skeleton structure. Alright, so let's look at what I have here. What I've gone ahead with doing ahead of time is putting a single arrow on a specific sound that I want to map out, and I'm going to go in and also do it for additional stuff. Let's take a look. Alright, I let that play out a little bit longer because I prepared more skeleton structure than I remembered. So what we have here at the very top is an indication that I want to put something to accent the drums. And then this is the start of the hard section. So right here, what this is telling me is I want to put arrows through, and every time I see a note like that, it's intended for me to put a hand or a jump. And you can see that this is what happens. I've got the jump here on the first one. It's part of the lead-in from the easier section. Although, if there wasn't a like 30 seconds going into this, I probably would have put a hand. But that's just compromising for difficulty's sake, and it's okay to do that. So this could have been a hand, but it's a jump in the actual file. I went in and mapped streams for the section here, because I know that everything is a 16th. It lines up with the waveform in the background, and I stopped to put a hand on that. I would continue through. When I initially made this, I think that I actually took the time to make it somewhat pitch relevant with the song, but this is just for a demonstration purpose. So we're going to see that we have somewhat similar usage from the skeleton structure. Now we have a triple note here, and I decided to make that one a hand. Let's find out why. It's because there's a guitar sound and a drum sound at the same time, and that's actually what I'm going to be using leading into this section here. Every time there's a guitar sound, I'm going to put a hand, and every time there's a drum sound, I'm going to put a jump. So you can hear the guitar sound. I'm going to map it on the left arrow. Goes like that for the entirety of it. And then the drum sound is filling in all of the eighth notes here. And so what this tells me is I'm going to put a hand every time that there's an arrow on the left and right, and I'm going to put a jump every time there's an arrow on the right. And then this is just mapped through like this. And then we would go into the hand stream. So something like that. And that's pretty much, this is the actual chart. Pretty much the same deal. And then I have the jump trail mapped ahead of time, and that's because the drum is just going berserk on it, as one would. More accurately, it's I guess it's a trill, or I don't know what you would call it, a drum roll, but essentially if you think of the way that somebody is hitting their drums on whatever drum that is, they're going back and forth with their two hands, and that is the reason that there is a jump trill here. It's to accurately recreate what you would actually be doing if you were playing the song on the drums. Now here, it probably would have been better if I dropped the jumps in between and just put the fourth notes. Because the drum is not doing that thing. Oh yeah, this was supposed to be on the left arrow, I think. Or no, the right arrow, because it is the drums. And you hear the guitar going, and then it changes right there. Right there. So I could have done something with that, but for the sake of the file and what I wanted to achieve in it, I ended up doing it as it was before. And one justification for that is because the the guitar is hitting 16th notes for the entire duration of this. That can be a good explanation as to why the difficulty did not decrease. So the idea behind the skeleton structure here would be essentially the same deal, but with the guitar going on every 16th and not wanting to put it as a jump trill all the way through, it's actually nerfed slightly. But it could have been mapped like this. jump trill is mapped ahead of time. Again, due to what the drummer is doing, it's the same as what it was up here essentially. So that's part of the skeleton structuring in Scars of Yesterday, and some of the decision process behind how the map was actually made. Let's look a little bit further down, and you'll see that I actually have a notation of a triple eighth note on the right arrow here. And that's because the guitar is going ba-da-ding, ba-da-ding. And so, knowing ahead of time already what I wanted to map, being hand stream with a jump on every eighth note, it would look like this. If I needed to do the entirety of the skeleton structure. Missed one there. And then you'll see that each of these line up with a hand, and each of these line up with a jump. And now we're into the piano section. More pitch relevancy is in order here. And we can see I have hands mapped here on the up and right instead, and then jumps just on the right. And then a jump trill mapped ahead of time, and then slowing down the song, acknowledging that there's a really cool section going on in the song. Decided to make it lift notes or holds for these. And then back to the skeleton structure. I have it marked. This one's supposed to be a hand. These ones are supposed to be hands. And then same with these ones, but there's actually Dragon Force stuff going on. There's no other way to put it. And then that's again supposed to be a hand, but there's more stuff going on. And you can hear that on the synthesizer. So I wanted to acknowledge that synthesizer rolling sound by making it the way that it is right here. Let's look ahead some more. This could have been a jump trill right here. Something like that. And then it drops off. But I think I decided against that because it just kind of suddenly drops off and it doesn't feel like it needs it. So now we're into the vocals, and we have skeleton structure for the vocals instead. So the vocals are mapped onto the right arrow, and the idea behind that is to emphasize these as a jump, and then if I want an extra layer on it to make it hand stream, which I do, I would map something else. And in this case, I believe it was the drum hits on every other eighth note. And so now these are going to be hands. And I think it's consistent all the way throughout. More or less. Probably less. Alright, that's pretty much skeleton structuring with the vocals. You can see how the hands line up with the eighth notes, and the jumps line up with the vocals. This will pretty much work for just about any type of song. It's just a matter of how many instruments you want to layer in at a time, and I do recommend going in one by one. So if the desired outcome is to have jump streams where the drums are accented, put one arrow to mark where the drum hits are, and then if you want to have hand stream, you can add in another layer by putting an extra skeleton note structure arrow onto a different column. What I typically do is, if I know ahead of time a certain pattern, I will actually not put in a skeleton structure. As I mentioned on above, up here, where I knew it was going to be just constantly jumps on every 8th note, and then a special circumstance, I would put in just the one note on the one column to indicate that I want a hand. So it could look like this. It's a little bit faster, it's a little bit cleaner. I already know that there's going to be jumps in between everything else, and these ones mean that I need to put in hands. Alright, let's take a look at Rampage. I'm not going to save changes to this. Lower the volume, put on the high pass filter by pressing I and enter. And there's a section in here that I want to jump to. So it's the drum and bass section. Let's look at it 20 to 30 seconds roughly, and go in and see if I can make a skeleton structure just out of scratch. Alright, I think that's pretty good. So it goes starting on here, and then here. And I hear on every other 4th note, it sounds like there's a hand that I want to place. Alright, let's see if that's accurate. Alright, now that's like I don't know what to really call it. We'll call it the bass, and then we'll call the other thing that I'm going to layer in the drum. So these ones are hands. I've decided it, that's what it is. Let's slow it down just slightly. That one probably doesn't exist, but I'm going to say it does. And that marks the end of that section. Alright, let's see if this lines up pretty nicely with the song. Alright, I would say that it does line up pretty nicely with the song. Now, something that actually makes it a little bit tidier for me, something that I like to do, I'm going to turn everything, and I'm going to put all of this stuff practically on one column. So just like before, I know that those are hands. So instead of having everything scattered, like the jumps on the left and the hands on the right, what I have here is an indication, a different form of demonstrating the skeleton structure, something that works for me at least, the way I like to lay it out. I like to put hands on the up arrow, and I also like to include it as part of the right arrow. And what this does is it just tells me these are hands, these are jumps. That's all it is. And then what I can do after this is I can put more markers for the synthesizer sounds. I know that the synthesizer lines up with the drum hits in this case. And then there's a roll sound here. I can mark that on the down arrow. And then there's another special sound right here. I could put a marker as not just a single arrow. I can put like a freeze here if I want to do something special with that. What I would do with this song is I would put the jump stream, hand stream. Up to about this section, and then I would slow it down and listen more carefully to what is going on in the song, and mapping stuff that is more accurate to the breaking points of the 16th notes. Like right here, there's no 16th note. So let's see the skeleton structure for this one in action. Alright, so this section is done. And then like I mentioned, I would slow it down. I have special markers for the synthesizer sound, which I ended up turning into holds in the actual map. And then there's a special marker for the roll sound. And then there's more for the synthesizer sound. And you can see how everything is consistently layered in regards to the drum and bass and the synthesizer sound. And that's because I have it pre-marked ahead of time. It's not good just for jump stream or hand stream. It's good for the entirety of the map. You can mark anything that you would like ahead of time. It can be vocals, it can be the guitar, it can be drums, it can be the synthesizer, it can be whatever instrument happens to be relevant. So that's the idea behind skeleton structure, is just to make a more consistent experience throughout the sim file or the map, whichever terminology you like to use. I hope that this is a helpful video, I've been wanting to create something like this for a while, so if any part of it is confusing, let me know, and I will remake the video if it appears to be necessary. Everyone have a great day, and take care.